30-year mortgage, right? A lot of people are like, I'm going to get in a 30 mortgage. I'm going to stay in it for 30 years. No, you're not, right? The average person will refinance that mortgage about 2 times in a 10-year period. Is it because they want to pull out cash? Is it because they want to do renovations to their house, pay off student loans, pay for student college or for colleges? We don't know, right? Everybody's got a why.
I'll tell you, I heard this. I'm in the business, and when I bought my home, which we anticipate being our forever home here in Lutherville, love the place. I was trying to be convinced this exact situation not to go even for a 30-year fix, but to do an ARM. Because the rate, it was significantly better, and I was in the jumbo category, and it just made sense. And I'm in the business. I've heard that statistic thrown at me a million times, and it's challenging because that's risk, and it makes you nervous. And one of the things I want to highlight is that I've heard this approach. The likelihood of you not refinancing, if you buy today in November, December 2022, the likelihood of you not refinancing in the next couple of years is 0.
Correct.
It's what I've heard. But you talk to a buyer, they say, Matt, that's speculation. I'm not going to buy a home that I can only quote unquote afford or want to afford based on what you're saying there. Because what if it goes up to 9%?
And I don't blame them, right? Which is why we're typically putting people into a 30-year fix at 7.5% or whatever the range is.
So if it goes up to 9%,
you're in a 30-year fixed and it's never going to change, right? So, we completely do a 180. We have no idea what's going on. Next thing rates are 15%. Well, you still have a 0.5% or half of what the market's selling right now. And you're fixed in for a 30-year fixed. ARMs also don't always have the best rates right now because of an inverted yield curve, right? We're not going to go ahead and see the best interest rate on an ARM in some cases. But again, the 30-year fix gives them the cushion. But what I was just talking to you about before getting over here is, we have the options for these buy downs. And these buy downs, again, I've been at it for 17 years. These buy downs were popular years ago. They come back. So the buy downs give us, if you as the real estate agent can negotiate seller contribution, we could use a portion or all of the seller contribution to temporarily buy down the interest rate for the consumer. So let's pretend the interest rate's 7.5%. We have many different buy down options. The one I like the best is a 1% buy down over a 2-year period. And I'll explain to that why. But instead of having a 7.5% interest rate, you will have a 6.5% interest rate for a 2-year period. Okay. And we're using the seller proceeds to offset that monthly payment and get it at 6.5%. And after that period, for the next 28 years, in the event that you don't refinance, your interest rate is going to be a fixed 7.5%, right? So it's a standard 30-year mortgage, but it's a buy down, temporarily buy down for 24 months.
And the benefit is, let's say in 12 months, the rates are 5.5%.
Yep.
You'd be refinancing anyway, locking in the lower rate.
Absolutely. And you want to know the best part about that? Is you're going to temporarily be at 6.5% for that 24-month period. Let's pretend that cost you or the seller $10,000. So essentially what we're doing is putting $10,000 in an escrow account, and we're paying the difference between 7.5% interest rate and 6.5%, and we're giving that credit. We're taking it out of that money that the seller gave you. Let's pretend you only are in that home for 4 months because all of a sudden now interest rates are 5.5%. You don't lose that $10,000 in there. If there's money left over in the escrow account, the buy down account, that money goes down to your principal curtailment. So instead of you owing $200,000, right, on a mortgage, and you had $10,000 in that escrow account, you used up $2,000 of it. You now have an $8,000 credit against your principal when you refinance. So you're never losing that money, because a lot of people are going to say, hey, John, I'm going to just use that $10,000 seller contribution to buy the interest rate down. So instead of 7.5%, I just want to use that $10,000 to get a rate of 7%. I counter them and say, look, if rates are at 5.5%, you use that $10,000 that you're never going to get back. At least now for a 24-month period, we could give you a lower monthly payment. And then that money is never disappearing. You're going to be able to use it as a principal curtailment, which just simply means instead of owing $200,000, now you owe $192,000 on your mortgage payoff when you do a refinance.
Right.
So it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge win for people. There's a 2-1 buy down. So instead of having a 7.5%, you'll have a 5.5% and then a 6.5%. I like the 1% buy down over 2 years.
You still have to be qualified. If I'm a buyer, I have to be qualified for the 7.5%
Great point. Yep. Correct. You have to be qualified for that.
So this is just a way to kind of retroactively get me back to the rates from months ago.
Yep.
And save money. And one of the things I just wanted to clarify, if you're watching this and you have no idea what a seller contribution is, the seller contribution, to clarify there, that's when a seller, during the negotiating process, when you write a contract, they are willing to give you, if you will, a credit to the buyer. It's the same as cash.
Yep.
So
now, how common were they a year ago?
It was laughable. If you asked for $1, they would throw it out.
If you asked for a home inspection a year ago, they would throw it out. I mean,
and the best way to do it, it's, you risk being salesy when you tell people this, because it's almost like you get your cake and you eat it too, because the market shifted. Anytime there's uncertainty, there's opportunity. Yep. And so the fact that I have to do a podcast to describe what these things are and to calm people down to get them through this initial purchase, I say, if you were looking to make a move in the last year and you missed it, or 2 years, 3 years, and now you're here, there's always a benefit to everything when there's a potential negative, yep. right? So yes, there's higher rates, but we have negotiating power now.
Yep.
There's only a few markets in all of Maryland where it's really competitive. Most markets, days on market have crept up, things have slowed down. The good homes still sell like crazy, but you're not going to be nearly as there's not
going to be a line around the block for an open house on a Sunday like there used to be.
Correct. And if there is, it's rare. And so you can basically get a better position to get a better deal on your home and then improve your rate down the road.
Yep.